How does a man without superpowers stand against gods like Superman or Darkseid? That's the question we'll explore in today's video as we dive deep into the mind of Batman, the Dark Knight of Gotham. While most heroes rely on incredible powers or advanced technology, Batman's strength comes from something much more formidable: his intellect and his unwavering willpower. Despite being just a regular human, Batman has faced off against some of the most powerful beings in the universe and emerged victorious time and time again. His ability to think, plan, and adapt makes him one of the most dangerous people in the DC universe. But what is it that makes him stand out among other heroes? In this video, we'll break down how Batman's psyche works, what drives him, and how he manages to hold his own against beings far more powerful than himself. Let's start with a look at his origins. How did Batman become the symbol of fear and justice that he is today? The origins and creation of Batman. To truly understand Batman, we need to go back to his roots. Batman was created by Bob Kane and Bill Finger, debuting in Detective Comics 27 in 1939. Initially, Batman was a very different character. In his earliest appearances, he was a vigilante who didn't hesitate to kill criminals, and his costume was much more simplistic, with bat-like wings. But as time passed, Batman evolved into something far more complex. His origin story is one of the most iconic in all of comics. Bruce Wayne, a young boy, witnessed the murder of his parents, Thomas and Martha Wayne, in a dark alley. This tragedy became the cornerstone of his existence and would define his entire life. With nothing left for him in Gotham, Bruce swore to rid the city of crime. But he knew that strength alone wouldn't be enough. He dedicated his life to physical and mental training, becoming the world's greatest detective, honing his mind to be as sharp as his fighting skills. What set Batman apart from other early superheroes, like Superman, was that he was just a man. He had no superhuman abilities, no alien powers, or godlike strength. Instead, Batman relied on his intellect, strategic thinking, and unwavering determination. This made him both relatable and inspiring. Over the decades, writers like Frank Miller, Grant Morrison, and Scott Snyder expanded on his character, turning Batman into a symbol not just of justice, but of personal sacrifice and moral complexity. In particular, Frank Miller's work on The Dark Knight Returns in 1986 redefined Batman for a modern audience, portraying an older, grittier version of the hero who was willing to push his physical and emotional limits. This darker, more nuanced version of Batman became a template for the character in both comics and media. Batman's core character traits. Now that we understand Batman's origins, let's take a closer look at what truly makes him unique. Unlike many superheroes who rely on superhuman abilities or advanced technology, Batman's most powerful trait is his mind. He's a genius, one of the smartest characters in the entire DC universe. Whether it's solving a complex crime, outthinking his enemies, or devising a strategic plan to neutralize threats, Batman's intellectual capabilities are his greatest weapon. One of Batman's most notable qualities is his ability to prepare for any situation. He has contingency plans for every single member of the Justice League, including Superman and even Wonder Woman. Because Batman knows that if the world's most powerful heroes were ever to go rogue, he needs to be ready. He spends hours, sometimes days, researching and planning, always thinking several steps ahead. And it's not just about fighting. Batman is a master detective, often solving cases that no one else can. His obsession with detail and his relentless pursuit of justice have earned him the title of the world's greatest detective. But it's not just his intelligence that makes Batman dangerous, it's his unbreakable will. Unlike heroes like Superman, who can often rely on their physical strength to solve problems, Batman's ability to resist temptation and to stick to his moral code is what truly sets him apart. He refuses to kill, no matter how justified it might seem in certain situations. This moral code is the core of his character, and it's what defines Batman's relationship with his enemies and allies alike. Fear is another tool Batman uses to his advantage. He understands how powerful fear can be, and it's part of what makes him such a successful vigilante. Batman has become the embodiment of fear in Gotham, using it as a weapon against criminals. He knows that most criminals are weak-willed, and once they see the symbol of the bat, they're often paralyzed by fear. This tactical use of fear is one of the key reasons Batman can stand toe-to-toe with superhumans like Superman or Darkseid. Despite his genius and strength of will, Batman is not without his flaws. His inability to forgive and move past his parents' death is a constant burden. The loss of Thomas and Martha Wayne shaped every decision he makes, but it's also his greatest weakness. It's what keeps him trapped in an endless cycle of vengeance, and at times, it makes him more like the villains he fights. Yet, it's this constant struggle between light and dark that makes Batman such a compelling human character. Batman's reliance on his mind and his moral compass, rather than sheer strength, is ultimately what makes him one of the most powerful characters in the comic book world. Batman versus gods and superhumans. One of the most fascinating aspects of Batman is his ability to stand toe-to-toe with beings who possess godlike powers, despite having no superhuman abilities of his own. Superman, the Man of Steel, is the ultimate example of this contrast. He has near invulnerable strength, the ability to fly, and heat vision. But that doesn't stop Batman from preparing for the worst. Batman has outsmarted Superman on multiple occasions, understanding that while Superman's powers may be limitless, his human vulnerabilities are what can be exploited. In The Dark Knight Returns, Batman uses a powerful combination of tactics, technology, and the environment to defeat Superman in a legendary battle, illustrating that strategy can overcome raw strength. But it's not just Superman that Batman faces. Darkseid, the godlike tyrant of Apocalypse, is another major threat in the DC universe. Despite Darkseid's immense strength, his control over the Omega beams, and his ability to destroy worlds, Batman has faced him down multiple times. Batman's brilliance and tenacity allow him to operate in the same universe as godlike beings. Even when outmatched, he has used his intelligence and foresight to neutralize threats or escape situations that could easily overwhelm a less prepared hero. Batman's resilience is key in these battles. No matter the odds, Batman never gives up. He understands his limits and works to overcome them. Where someone like Superman may rely on physical strength, Batman counters by pushing his body and mind to their absolute limits. He's trained his body to peak human condition, able to fight off attackers much stronger than him. And his intellect allows him to strategize in ways that most others can't. Batman may not have superpowers, but he has the one thing that's often more important: the will to succeed. What's more, Batman's deep understanding of human nature plays a huge role in his success against stronger enemies. For example, Batman is a master of reading people, anticipating their actions, and exploiting their weaknesses. When it comes to superhumans, like Wonder Woman or the Flash, Batman knows how to strategize around their powers, even if he can't physically match them. In JLA Tower of Babel, Batman's contingency plans for the Justice League members, including exploiting their weaknesses, are put to the test when his plans are stolen by Ra's al Ghul. Batman's foresight and careful preparation made him a crucial member of the team, even though he wasn't the most powerful. It's this mental agility and strategic thinking that make Batman so dangerous. He doesn't rely on strength alone. He uses his mind to overcome physical limitations. He's more than capable of taking on the most powerful beings in the multiverse, proving that willpower and intelligence can make someone truly unstoppable. Batman's impact on villains and his code. What truly sets Batman apart from other heroes is his moral code, which often defines his actions and impacts those around him, especially his enemies. Batman's steadfast refusal to kill is one of his defining traits. It's a principle that makes him a hero, but also a tragedy, because it creates a deep internal conflict. For someone who has lost so much, who deals with endless pain and suffering, the line between justice and vengeance can sometimes be blurry. Batman's refusal to take a life stems from his belief that if he were to kill, he would become no better than the criminals he's sworn to fight. His moral code is at the heart of his interactions with the villains he faces. Many of Gotham's criminals, from the Joker to Two-Face, are complex characters with their own personal tragedies and twisted motivations. Batman doesn't just see them as villains to be defeated. He sees them as individuals to be stopped and rehabilitated. Batman's connection with his rogues gallery is rooted in a shared trauma. Many of them, like Harley Quinn or Mr. Freeze, were once ordinary people who were broken by their circumstances. Batman knows what it feels like to lose everything, which is why he refuses to kill them. He wants to give them a chance, even when everyone else belies they are beyond saving. Yet this compassion has its limits. Batman's commitment to justice can make him a distant and often unapproachable figure, even to his allies. His sense of responsibility to Gotham consumes him, and as a result, his relationships are often strained. He is not a team player in the traditional sense. His desire to remain in control and make all decisions himself means that he can alienate those who care about him. His relationships with members of the Justice League, like Superman or Wonder Woman, are often fraught with tension. Batman may be one of the most trusted members of the League, but his secrecy and his inclination to work alone make him a difficult ally. In his interactions with villains, Batman often finds himself walking a tightrope between being a symbol of fear and a hopeful figure for redemption. The Joker, one of Batman's greatest adversaries, is a perfect example of this paradox. The Joker's chaos and madness challenge Batman's resolve, forcing him to question whether his efforts to save Gotham and his enemies are truly worth it. For the Joker, Batman is the only thing keeping him from fully embracing the chaos he craves. He needs Batman because, without him, there's no point to his madness. But it's not just about fighting crime. It's about the philosophical battle that happens between Batman and his villains. Batman believes in the potential for redemption. The Joker believes in the inevitability of destruction. And therein lies the true conflict. Batman's belief in moral order versus the chaos his enemies represent. Batman's legacy and influence on other heroes. One of the most significant aspects of Batman's character is the legacy he's built, not just in Gotham, but across the entire DC universe. His influence extends far beyond his own adventures. He's become a mentor to many, a leader, and a source of inspiration for countless heroes who follow in his footsteps. Whether it's through his relationships with other members of the Justice League, his protégés like Robin, or even his occasional alliances with anti-heroes like Green Arrow, Batman has shaped the moral and tactical foundation of the superhero community. One of Batman's most lasting contributions to the superhero world is his mentorship. Over the years, he's taken several young heroes under his wing, each of them grappling with their own personal demons, much like Bruce Wayne did when he was young. The most famous example is Dick Grayson, the original Robin, who grew up to become Nightwing. Through Dick, Batman's lessons of justice, discipline, and compassion were passed on. Then there's Jason Todd, who tragically died at the hands of the Joker, only to return as the anti-hero Red Hood. The painful loss of Jason deeply impacted Batman, but it also reinforced the moral complexity of his choices. Next is Tim Drake, the third Robin, who is perhaps the most similar to Bruce himself, a young detective with a sharp mind and an unyielding sense of justice. Tim's continued role in the Bat family reflects Batman's lasting influence, even in moments when the Dark Knight's presence is not physically there. And then there's Barbara Gordon, who, as Batgirl, shared a unique connection with Batman. Even though she was never his direct protege like the Robins, her partnership with Batman helped establish her as a formidable hero in her own right. After her tragic injury, she transitioned into the role of Oracle, becoming a crucial part of the Bat family's operations. Batman's ability to foster teamwork, even among those who work in the shadows, shows his leadership and his belief in the importance of community. Batman's legacy also extends to his strategic influence on the Justice League itself. While Superman is often seen as the moral compass of the League, Batman is the one who keeps everyone in check. He's the one who can always spot a potential threat, even among his closest allies, and he's not afraid to act if he believes any of them have become a danger. This vigilance has earned him both respect and fear from his fellow heroes. In fact, his role as the backup plan for the Justice League, his ability to take down any of his teammates if they ever go rogue, makes him a figure of immense power within the League, even without any powers of his own. But Batman's influence goes beyond the people he trains or teams up with. His philosophy shapes the entire world around him. Heroes like Green Lantern and the Flash have all at some point learned from his determination, his ability to think through problems, and his refusal to give up, no matter the odds. Batman's influence on these characters shows that his true power is not just physical. It's the impact he has on others, inspiring them to rise above and do better, even in the face of their darkest fears. Batman's struggles and flaws. As much as Batman is a symbol of strength, intelligence, and resilience, he is also deeply flawed. It's these very flaws that make him one of the most human superheroes in existence. While many heroes like Superman or Wonder Woman seem to embody ideals of perfection, Batman is all about grappling with his inner darkness and trying to rise above it. His vulnerabilities are as much a part of his character as his incredible abilities. One of Batman's most significant flaws is his obsession. It's this obsession that fuels his relentless pursuit of justice, but it also drives him to isolate himself from others. He's a man who has made a pact with his own pain. Batman often pushes away those closest to him, including his trusted allies, in favor of his solitary mission. His relationship with Alfred is one of the few exceptions, but even then, it's strained. Alfred is the father figure Bruce never had, yet he's also forced to watch Bruce slowly self-destruct as he sacrifices his emotional well-being for his mission. The emotional cost of being Batman is immense. Bruce Wayne was a child when he witnessed the murder of his parents, and that trauma has haunted him his entire life. He carries this pain every day, and it shapes every decision he makes. While he's been able to channel that pain into becoming a force for good, the trauma has never truly gone away. Batman is a man who is constantly at war with his own grief, guilt, and anger. The loss of his parents is his greatest motivator, but also his greatest weakness. He has never allowed himself to heal. This inability to heal emotionally is a direct contrast to many of the villains Batman faces. While he holds on to the hope of redemption for his enemies, he struggles to forgive himself for his perceived failures. His obsessive need for control can sometimes lead to questionable decisions, as seen in his relationship with the Justice League. Batman is often unwilling to trust his teammates fully, constantly working behind the scenes to create plans to counteract their potential rogue actions. This behavior is driven by his fear that no one else can fully understand the gravity of his mission, and that they, too, could fall to the darkness he battles every day. Moreover, Batman's moral code, his refusal to kill, while admirable, also leads to difficult situations. Sometimes, it seems that his compassion towards villains like the Joker and Two-Face only prolongs the suffering of others. Batman is often forced to make impossible decisions, knowing that his refusal to kill could cost innocent lives. His constant struggle to maintain his principles while facing increasingly dangerous adversaries highlights the fine line he walks between heroism and self-destruction. In a world full of superpowered beings and godlike entities, Batman's very humanity makes him vulnerable. Yet it is this very vulnerability, coupled with his determination to rise above it, that makes him one of the most enduring and relatable heroes of all time. The evolution of Batman, from comic book to pop culture icon. The Batman we know today didn't appear fully formed in his first comic book. His journey, much like the character himself, has been one of evolution and transformation. From his debut in 1939, Batman has grown from a gritty detective to a global icon, one of the most instantly recognizable and influential characters in pop culture. Batman's origins lie in the mind of Bob Kane and writer Bill Finger. Initially conceived as a darker, more ominous character inspired by pulp heroes like Zorro and the Shadow, Batman was presented as a vigilante who used his intellect and physical prowess to fight crime. His first appearance in Detective Comics 27 marked the beginning of what would become a cultural phenomenon. At the time, His appearance was a stark contrast to more traditional heroes like Superman. Batman was a creature of the night, a figure shrouded in mystery, whose only powers were his determination and gadgets. In these early days, Batman was more violent, sometimes even using firearms, and wasn't the morally grounded figure he would become. His transformation began in the 1940s, thanks in large part to Bill Finger, who worked on defining the character's moral compass and expanding his world. Finger created many of Batman's key attributes, from Gotham City to the Batcave, Alfred, and the Batmobile. As Batman's stories developed, the relationship between Bruce Wayne and his alter ego began to take shape. We saw the transition from a figure of vengeance to a symbol of justice, someone who fought for order in the chaos of Gotham. But it wasn't until the 1960s TV show, starring Adam West, that Batman became a household name. The campy, colorful portrayal of the Dark Knight was a far cry from the brooding figure of the comics, but it introduced Batman to a whole new generation and cemented his place in mainstream culture. The show was filled with campy humor, gadgets, and the iconic bam, pow fight sequences, but even then, it retained the core of Batman's essence, fighting injustice, albeit in a more playful way. By the time Tim Burton's Batman, 1889, hit theaters, Batman was no longer just a comic book character. He was a cinematic icon. Burton's darker, more gothic interpretation redefined the Dark Knight for a new generation, showcasing his tortured soul and inner conflict, a far cry from the lighter interpretation of the 60s. Michael Keaton's portrayal of Batman introduced a more serious, psychological angle to the character, and the success of the film paved the way for Batman to dominate the silver screen. Then came Christopher Nolan's trilogy, beginning with Batman Begins, 2005, which reimagined the character as a product of his environment, his fear, his trauma, and his endless drive for justice. Nolan's Batman was both a response to and an evolution of the previous films, focusing on the psychology of Bruce Wayne and the moral dilemmas of being a vigilante. The Dark Knight 2008 is widely regarded as one of the greatest superhero films ever made, largely due to Heath Ledger's portrayal of the Joker and the complex ethical struggles that Batman faces. Today, Batman exists in a variety of forms: comic books, movies, TV shows, and video games, each interpreting the character in different ways. From the animated series to the more recent films by Zack Snyder and Matt Reeves, Batman remains a cultural symbol of what it means to overcome personal demons and fight for justice, no matter the odds. His evolution reflects the changing world around him. In a time of shifting societal values and political climates, Batman has adapted, yet his core principles remain the same. The Dark Knight is a hero who proves that even in the darkest of times, the will to fight for good can shine through, making him not just a superhero, but a symbol of hope for generations. Batman's greatest moments: a hero defined by his choices. When we think of Batman, we don't always think about his strength or his skills, but rather the choices he makes in the most difficult situations. It's in his decisions, often when faced with impossible odds, that we truly see the measure of his heroism. Some of Batman's most defining moments don't involve fistfights or intense battles. They are moments of moral clarity and sacrifice that separate him from the heroes around him. One of the most iconic examples of Batman's moral code comes from The Killing Joke, 1988, written by Alan Moore. While the story itself is controversial, it presents a Batman who is both vulnerable and determined, and it's here that we see his complex relationship with the Joker. Batman refuses to kill the Joker, despite the tremendous harm the Joker continues to inflict on Gotham. In this moment, Batman makes the ultimate choice to maintain his moral high ground, even if it costs him. He is faced with the opportunity to end the Joker's reign of terror once and for all, yet he chooses to preserve his principles, knowing that doing so might only prolong the Joker's madness. Another defining moment comes in Batman: The Dark Knight Returns, 1986 by Frank Miller, which redefines an older, grizzled Bruce Wayne coming out of retirement to reclaim Gotham. Here, Batman faces Superman in one of the most iconic confrontations in comic history. But it's not just about brute strength. It's about strategy and mind games. Batman outsmarts Superman with a combination of preparation, resourcefulness, and his deep understanding of his opponent. Even though Superman is physically superior, Batman wins the fight by using his wits and exploiting Superman's weaknesses. It's a moment that shows why Batman, despite being a mere human, is often regarded as the world's greatest detective and strategist. In Batman Hush, 2002, Batman is faced with the revelation of a mysterious enemy, and he's forced to confront his relationships with his allies and enemies. This story shows Batman at his most vulnerable, as he not only deals with his own personal demons, but also confronts the consequences of his past choices. When faced with betrayal and deceit, Batman's decision to trust his allies, and his decision to never give up on Gotham, reveals the core of his heroism. It's not just his physical endurance that makes Batman great. It's his unwavering commitment to protect the innocent, even when surrounded by darkness. And then there's the moment in Batman Mask of the Phantasm, 1993, arguably one of Batman's most defining moments on film. In this story, Bruce Wayne is forced to face the ghost of his past and confront his own personal desires for love and family. Batman's decision to reject the possibility of a normal life, choosing to remain as a symbol of justice for Gotham, is heartbreaking, yet heroic. Harris's cry of agony. He understands the weight of his duty and the sacrifices he must continue to make to honor the memory of his parents. His selflessness in choosing duty over happiness illustrates why Batman is such a compelling and relatable character. He is a man defined by his choices, no matter the cost to himself. What makes these moments so powerful is that they show Batman at his core, a hero who is not driven by superhuman powers, but by willpower, intellect, and a deep sense of moral responsibility. Whether he's facing the Joker's chaos, Superman's might, or his own painful memories, Batman's greatest strength lies in his ability to make the right choice, even when it means sacrificing everything. Batman's influence on other heroes and the world around him. One of Batman's most profound impacts goes beyond his own actions. His influence on other heroes and the world around him is what truly makes him a beacon in the DC universe. While Superman might embody the light of hope, and Wonder Woman represents the ideal of strength and compassion, Batman is a symbol of resilience, determination, and the power of choice. His presence in the Justice League and his influence over countless other heroes speaks volumes about his importance, not just as a fighter, but as a leader. Perhaps Batman's most notable influence is on the younger generation of heroes he mentors. Furthermore, Batman's influence extends beyond just the heroic community. His presence has made a deep impact on the criminals of Gotham as well. Figures like the Joker, Two-Face, and Ra's al Ghul are all shaped by their encounters with Batman. They are, in many ways, his greatest reflections, and his influence pushes them to become more dangerous, more complicated. The Joker, perhaps Batman's greatest foe, is often seen as the antithesis to Batman's methodical, disciplined nature. Yet the Joker thrives because of his relationship to Batman, finding meaning in the chaos that Batman constantly strives to control. In this sense, Batman creates his own foes, a testament to his power as a symbol. Through all of these relationships, whether positive or negative, Batman's legacy is far-reaching. He is a figure who has not only shaped the course of his own stories, but also the world around him. Batman's role as mentor, leader, and even anti-hero continues to leave an indelible mark on both his allies and enemies, making him not only a hero for Gotham, but a symbol for the entire DC universe. Batman's legacy, a symbol for the ages. Batman is not just a superhero. He is a symbol, one that transcends time, media, and culture. Over the decades, Batman has evolved into much more than the sum of his parts. From the page to the screen, from comic books to film, Batman has become a timeless figure that reflects the complexities of the human condition. His legacy is one of endurance, sacrifice, and the unwavering belief that one person, no matter how flawed or broken, can make a difference in a world that often seems beyond saving. At its core, Batman represents the idea of self-made heroism. Unlike other superheroes who possess godlike powers or miraculous abilities, Batman is a human being, shaped by tragedy and driven by a singular, unwavering mission. He doesn't rely on superpowers, he relies on his mind, skills, and determination. This makes Batman perhaps one of the most relatable and inspiring culture. Anyone can aspire to be Batman, because he represents the ideal that ordinary people, through sheer will and hard work, can fight against extraordinary odds. What makes Batman's legacy so powerful is that he doesn't just fight for the moment, he fights for the future. Batman's decisions are often made with an eye toward the long-term consequences. He knows that his work as a vigilante will never truly be done, that the fight against evil is a never-ending battle. Yet he chooses to continue it, knowing full well the costs to his own happiness and well-being. This sense of duty, of responsibility, is what sets Batman apart from other heroes. He doesn't do it for recognition or glory. He does it because he believes it's the right thing to do. Over the years, Batman has become a symbol of justice, not the easy kind, but the hard, sometimes painful kind. His version of justice isn't black and white. It's complicated, morally gray, and often requires sacrifice. Batman is a hero who is willing to make the hard choices, the ones that others might shy away from. This complexity is what makes him such a compelling and enduring figure. His struggles, his emotional scars, his inner conflict between being Bruce Wayne and Batman resonate with audiences because they mirror the challenges faced by people in the real world. Whether it's the need to balance personal life and duty, or the desire for revenge versus the need for forgiveness, Batman's journey is one of personal growth as much as it is about saving Gotham. What makes Batman's legacy so universal is that he's not just a product of his time. He's a reflection of the world around him. Whether in the 1940s, the 1980s, or the present day, Batman's stories tackle issues that are as relevant today as they were when he was first introduced. Corruption, violence, morality, and the fight for justice. As society continues to evolve, so does Batman, adapting to the needs of the times without losing the core principles that make him who he is. Batman's legacy is not one of perfect heroism, but of perseverance, of constantly striving to be better, even when the world around him tells him it's impossible. He is a symbol of hope, not because he believes the world will always be just, but because he believes that as long as there are people willing to fight, there will always be a chance for change. And so, Batman stands as a symbol for the ages, reminding us all that even in the darkest of times, one person can make a difference. His legacy is one of endurance against all odds, and the eternal belief that justice can prevail no matter how long the night.